Welcome again. I don't know what happened. Well, I hope I get used to it. So welcome to the show. Is your husband there? Tell him that Father Paul is in on the show. And if your wife is not there, invite her to let her come as well. Tonight is going to be a beautiful night. What we want to do on this show is to begin a discussion that I expect that the two of you will continue with after the show. I'm going to do a chat for 10 minutes, and thereafter you can let your questions begin to come. I'll just ask that you hold your questions if you have questions and comments so I can respond to them right after the show. Let's begin our discussion, and I hope that you continue with this discussion. We're going to be talking this night about the African man and sex in marriage. What does the African man think about sex in marriage? Once upon a time, I'm sure you all know that, there was a popular practice of one man and many women in Africa. And this gave the opportunity for what the African man understood about sex. Think about the way the houses were built in those days. The man had a house, he had his room, and the women had their rooms as well. And so the first thing that the African man thought about sex was that either he invites the woman over to his room or he goes to the woman in her room when he wants sex for pleasure or when he wants to have children. And so it was about him. It was about what he wanted. It was about who he wanted. It was about when he wanted. For the man, sex was either for recreation or if you want to have children. I was talking with someone today and she said to me, sex those days was for children. If you wanted a child, you get into sex. If you didn't want a child, then you do not have sex. And so an African man those days thought sex was just for children. It also occurred that the African man determined the when. When he wanted sex, he determined how he wanted sex. He also determined who he wanted sex with. And so for the African man, the women are lined up. And so he would only go there when and with whom. And he did whatever he thought he wanted to do. This meant that the wife was there to satisfy the man, for the African man. The wife was there to do whatever he wanted her to do. Once he was able to provide the money that was needed for food, he's able to provide shelter, he's able to provide clothing, he was the African man. And that meant that he had access to sex when he wanted, how he wanted, with whom. The African man thought that the wife should be satisfied even if there was no sex with her regularly. As long as there was a house, there was a room, there was food, he thought it was okay without regular sex. He thought that a wife must be ready anytime. That's another thing. The African man thought that, once I get to her room, she should be ready. And so the woman was expected to be ready for him anytime he came. After all, he had paid the dowry. Don't forget that. So the African man will think that dowry is the price for everything. Anytime I want to, I get it because I have paid the dowry. She must not say no. I heard that once, during the COVID thing, different things happened. There was a case of a young man who was running after the wife, and the woman ran outside. And the man just kept saying, come into the room. And those standing outside looked at the two of them, and one of them said to the man, "Be not your wife, you don't pay your dowry." That is a clear thinking of the African man. The only time the African man will think, it wasn't too good for me to have sex with my wife, was when it was visible that she was dying or she was sick. For the African man, if the woman is asking for sex, then she has started to mix up with bad friends. So if your wife came to you and say, let's have some then it means bad friends have been introduced to your wife. For the African man, if the woman made some moves while having sex with the husband, then it means that she had gone outside. She has just gone somewhere she should not have gone to. My brother, that is not the way it should be. It is only because you're doing a good job. That is why she's making the moves she's making. And finally, the African man thought that if she should ever say no when you are asking for sex, then it means that you can go outside and get it. And some even, flaunt it like, if you don't say yes, then I know where to get it. That is an African man. You remember how I started? My brother, story. Gone are those days. Gone are those days. Times have changed. African mentality must also evolve. You are still that strong African man. No one is doubting that. And that should not be in any question. We're talking about you being the African man in 2020, having sex and be happy. And that is the thing we want to talk about. That is the thing we're heading to now. So what should the African man do? What should the African man do? I'm not asking you to stop being an African man. And I'm not saying being an African man is bad. But I'm saying there was a thinking pattern, and there must be a thinking pattern for you to really be an African man. Brother, your wife also needs to enjoy sex. She is a normal human being like you. It does not matter her age. As an African man, you must know that the way you need sex is the same way that your wife needs sex, because she is a normal human being like you. Sex is not about you, the man. Sex is not about you, the man. Sex is not only about having children. Sex never is only about having children. Sex is about having experience between the two of you. Even those that have stopped having children, they still need sex. So you must know that. Let's get that out of our system as African men. Oh, you don't born finish. She still needs sex. Body no be wood, as they say. Sex is about the two of you. And when you are having sex, it must be about the two of you. You must find a way to satisfy yourselves. Bros, find a way to satisfy her. She must also make effort. Let her know that she can satisfy you. Don't let it be like, what do you do? No, it's about the two of you. Sex is not about power. This is not where you should be the African man. Sex is not about power. It's not about, it's not power. It is about affection. And so it must not always be intercourse. Yes, it is sex, but it must not always be intercourse. How about? What happens to holding hands? What happens to holding her? What happens to just looking at her? It does not make you a weak African man. It only makes you an African man that is protective. And that is very, very important. Time spent with your wife, bros, is not time wasted. It is called bonding. So when you see your husband, tell him bonding time. So time spent with your wife is not wasting time. It's called bonding. Gone are the days when you're spending time with your wife, they say, oh, you are a woman rapper. You're not a woman rapper. You are a good African man. You're a good man who understands the home, who wants to take care of the home. And bros, you have to stop behaving like a baby now. You know what happens to babies? When you take away food, they cry. They get angry. They throw tantrums. They drew, when the woman says no sex, don't get angry now. Haba. Don't begin to say plan. No. As an African man, that is the time you should ask her. That's the time you should talk to her. That's the time all she wants you to do is to say, what is wrong with you? What can I do for you? And so stop being a baby as an African man. You have to learn to take care, protect, show love, be there in times of, I don't want, show that you understand. Show that you are that man, okay? That's the time you actually should be strong as an African man. You must talk about sex with your wife. If she says no, ask her what the problem is. That is all she wants. That may take care of a lot of things. Bros, you know that sex is not only what you do in the bedroom. Sex is everything outside the bedroom. It ends in the bedroom. So all the children's school fees, the house allowance, all those things, my mother, my parents want to come, I need to travel, all those things come in sex. And so when you are in the bedroom and you're saying, oh yeah, now, and she's saying, it is because there are so many other things going on. And you think it is all about jumping into the bed. It is married needs. That's not where you should be thinking, where did she learn it from? Who taught her? Everybody taught her. It's instinct. It's in her head. She's having a good time with you, and so she's learning. Okay? Your friend is not the one to tell you how to do your sex life. African man must learn that. Talk to the person you're having sex with. Talk to your wife. Ask her about it. It's not your friend. It's not over a bottle of beer. No. Go to the person you're having sex with. You are satisfied. You are good, and then you turn and you sleep. Who does that? It's only African men of those days. You have sex, you're okay, you turn. Some even turn their backs. No. What happens to holding her? What happens to holding her? What happens to telling her it was a good time? What happens to sleeping in her arms? What happens to you also having she is? And you must never think that there is an alternative. As an African man, you think, okay, if she doesn't say yes, then I will go outside. Go outside to where? You're going nowhere. The best you must do as an African man, and this is where your power must be shown, that you are a strong man. Stay in the house. Take care of your business in a house. Ask her what the problem is. Show her how to be the beautiful wife you want her to be. African men have been described as people who cannot stay at home alone. And some women are buying into that. I was teaching married course sometime, and the women were asked, what do you think? If your husband goes outside, would you go? And they said, no, I won't go. And they asked the man, what would you think if your wife should go outside? I said, I will abandon her. And I said, no, you got it wrong. Gone are the days when we think that when the home is not good, the African man should go outside. It is in the house, it is in the home that you show your power. It is in the house, it is in the home that you show that you're an African man. It is at home that you show that you do not have another place to go. Thank you very much for listening. So I can pick up your questions now if you have questions, and I will try as much as possible to respond to your question. Someone says to me, says that communication in bedroom is very, very important. Absolutely, absolutely. You must, and African men those days don't communicate. They just, they make signs like it's your turn, and they get into the bedroom, and that's the business of the day. But you must talk about it. It's very, very important. Very, very important. So if you have questions, share your questions. Let's see what the questions are. And if we can answer those questions, we will answer those questions. How often should an African man have sex with a wife? It is no longer how often should the African man have sex with a wife. It is how often should couples. So we're gradually reducing that prefix of the African man. You are a husband, you are a wife. And so go to your wife and it just doesn't begin in the bedroom like, oh yeah, let's go. No, you talk about it. And there are gestures, there are actions that just lead to it. It just happens. That way it makes it very interesting, and things don't have to go the hard way. For most African men, sex is what they should do medically unfit to have intercourse. It's important. I mean, we are in an age where you have health concerns, and then you have diagnoses. And I mean, if you're certified not to be able to have sex, and that's what I have said, it's not by power. I mean, it all doesn't all have to end up in sex. And so if medically speaking you cannot, it doesn't mean you are less a woman, doesn't mean you are less a wife. There are things that you do that show affection, and we must begin to learn to think about that. What can be done to spice up sex in a typical last week? Someone said you are missing a point, so you do 6 inches below the stomach. What can you do to spice up sex? I think we may. I think where you see, my name is Paul. If my father says my mother and say Mama Paul, really? I mean, there are things. You call names, you buy gifts, you show affection, you hold hands, you talk about it, and then you ask questions. Was it okay? Was it not okay? I mean, those are things that can spice up sex. And then I've heard people say, my husband's mouth smells. Brush your teeth now, Abba. And then do some, spice up some things. And then if you have worked all day, your body's smelling, go get a shower. I'm not talking about the women. I'm talking about go get a shower, refresh. These are things that spice up sex in marriage. And I think we all must begin to think about that. You get cleaned up, and then you talk about it. Very, very importantly also, because I said before that sex is not cannot take care of, don't get angry at them. Explain. I cannot pay that bill. Explain why you cannot pay that bill. It doesn't make you a weaker person. Your parents are supposed to come. This is why I think they shouldn't come right now. When there is communication, I think people would have better sex life. So I think that should, in a typical African home, talk about it, and then let it happen. That's what I think. And then you must also not a lot of things happen when people sit down and they're having a good time, they're having a drink, and then somebody said something about the wife, the other one said something about the wife, and then you're going back home and you're thinking about your wife. Don't ever compare your wife. Ever. Let me tell you, many of those things that happen when you're having a sip of beer are not true. That man that told you, if my wife should do something, I will do it. It's not. All of these, then sex gets better in the house. Will showing affection before the children be wrong? Now, the children should grow up in a happy home. If you mean by affection holding of hands, please do it. If you mean by affection hugging your spouse, please do it. If you mean by affection giving a peck cheek to your spouse, please do it. They should see that you love each other. Of course, I'm not saying you should have sex when they are where they are. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying show affection, hold hand, talk. Don't shout now. Don't let it all be about no money, I'm shouting. No. I think we should show more affection. Children will learn, and they also will be able to show affection to their partners as they grow up. These days, many children don't even know what it means for daddy to show affection to mommy or mommy to show affection to daddy. All they know is daddy has given money. There's more now. There's more to life. So yes, please show affection. But don't, because if you don't show it in their presence, someone else is showing it. The internet is there, the TV is there, someone else is showing it. And they are wondering what it is about their own daddy and their own mommy that they are not showing affection. So it's important for us to show affection where our children are. It's some kind of formation as well. But it's not everything you do where children are. So there's limit to what we do. All right. I don't intend to take all your evenings. I'm going to be asking that we keep this conversation going. Like I said, it was meant to start a discussion in the home. I'm grateful that you are here tonight. We will be doing this every Sunday at 9 p.m., and I won't take too much of your time. For the Man U fans, I hope I made up a bit of your day, just a little bit of it. And we can start. You can talk to me. You can call if you want to have a chat. You can call on book a time with Father Paul, calling 08115396 I'm going to say that again. 08115396 And don't forget to follow Couple Spot on our social media handles. You have the Twitter, you have the Instagram, you have the YouTube, and then we have Facebook. It's Couples Sport NGN, at Couple Sport NGN. It's been a good night this evening. Know this, that sex must be done the right way, meaning satisfying both parties. in the right place, meaning inside the marriage, and with the right person, meaning your spouse. Thank you all. Love you all. God bless you all.